to Professor Ayu Tarini, please.
Good morning, everyone. To our distinguished guests and Bapak Ibu, all the symposium participants, I will chair the first session. And in the first session, we'll start with speakers from Indonesia, and then we will move around the world. The first session, we will have two speakers, and I would like to ask the speakers to join me here. First, we will have Dr. Yodi Mahendra Datta, MSc, PhD, and then the second speaker is Ibu Dr. Gigi Teresia Roni Andayani, MPH. For short introduction, Dr. Yodi Mahendra Datta, MSc, PhD, is a lecturer at the Department of Public Health in this faculty. He is also the Director of the Center for Health Policy and Management. And we are very proud to say that last year he won the Scopus Young Scientist Award, which leads him to a one-year visiting scholar in Heidelberg University. So to make the time more efficient, I would like to ask Dr. Yodi to present, and we will have 20 minutes each for presentation. Please.
Thank you, Prof. Ud. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, dear colleagues, NCDs these days is one of the burning issues in global health, as we all know it. It's making headlines, as you can see here, for example, CNN, BBC, Economist, US NPR, and this is a bit unusual. Not so long ago, if you see health in the news media, it's usually about outbreaks. SARS, swine flu, avian flu, and so on. But these days, we see that the news media also consider non-communicable diseases as newsworthy. And that's something which is quite a progress. And apparently this news media are picking up the messages, picking up the stories which are coming out of the discussions, of the debates which are ongoing, particularly the ones which are coming out from high-level discussions, such as the one in the UN. In 2011, we had the UN General Assembly, which was on prevention and control of NCDs, which was quite a milestone for global health. Because this is not the World Health Assembly, this is the General Assembly. This is as high as you can get as far as Global Diplomacy Forum is concerned. The only disease which had this privilege before this was HIV/AIDS. So we can say in this respect that it's getting the same level of attention from the policymakers as HIV/AIDS. It's getting the place in this UN General Assembly. And in this assembly, after several years later, it's also followed up just recently by the WHO, the World Health Assembly a couple of months ago in May, in which they officially endorsed the global target, which was mentioned by our organizing committee chair. So we now officially have a global target for NCD, comparable to the global target for AIDS, TB, malaria, maternal and child health. We have it officially endorsed by World Health Assembly, and it was also endorsed by the NCD Alliance. Now, in parallel to these discussions among the policymakers, there was also quite intense debate in academic circles. There's also a lot of more and more conferences, presentations regarding NCDs, also a lot of more journal articles about NCDs. Just a few months ago, one of the most influential medical journals, The Lancet, published a special series on non-communicable diseases, which covers a wide range of dimensions of non-communicable diseases. And these are really impressive pieces of scientific work, which are essential readings for any of us who are concerned with non-communicable diseases and global health. And the profile of NCD also got an extra boost just recently due to these seminal publications, which some of you probably have came across. This is the report of the Global Burden of Disease, which is an amazing piece of work. If you see, this is the work of 488 co-authors. I don't know how you can work with 400 co-authors. It's really mind-boggling. Of 300 institutions from 50 countries. So they were working on an enormous amount of data to be able to document, to quantify the burden of diseases from 1990 to 2010. And they came out with nice figures like this one, which clearly shows that in the past decade, the increase in the global burden of diseases are mostly attributed to non-communicable diseases. The report was also written quite eloquently, and they also have some crisp messages which are quite easy to digest by lay community, by public policy makers, and by news media. For example, this one is very simple. The message is the leading cause of death have changed from communicable to non-communicable. Eating too much, overtaken hunger. These are very simple, direct messages which are coming out from a report like this. So it's easily taken up by the policymakers, easily taken up by the media. Now, up to this point, all is well. NCD seemingly is getting finally the attention which is long overdue. But the big questions remains, to what extent these attentions are translated into concrete actions on the ground? To what extent sufficient resources are being pumped in to be able to implement effective actions against NCD in low and middle income countries? In short, in other words, show me the money. And the answer to that million-dollar question is a bit disappointing. If you look at the global health financing patterns, you will see that the funding for NCD is minute, minimum. Just as an illustration, this is a recent analysis published in The Lancet of the WHO budgetary allocations from 2008 to 2013. And then you can see, for non-communicable disease, this one is relatively small. Very much disproportionate to the burden of diseases. And this is not meant to pick on WHO. You will find similar patterns across most of the major international agencies. If you look at the allocations from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, you will see similar pattern. Very little dedicated to non-communicable diseases. And so it's a contrast between the attention and the funding. And we can debate all day trying to explain why this is so, but one factor seems to be more or less a general consensus, that this is so because the fact is non-communicable disease was never part of the Millennium Development Goals. We all know the MDGs. We love the MDGs. Because health is a big part of the MDGs. But NCD is not part of the MDG. And we know what gets on the MDG gets funded. For example, you see for MDG 6, entirely new funding institution, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, Malaria was created. And they have pumped billions and billions of dollars to low and middle income countries to fight AIDS, TB, Malaria to achieve MDG 6. But NCD was never there. So it was practically not part of it and not getting the priority it deserves. So that's the bad news. NCD is not part of MDG. The good news is MDG is not cast in stone. In fact, it's about to expire. Practically by December 31st, 2015. So in practical terms, when we wake up on the morning of January 1st, 2016, we will have MDG 2, a sequel to the MDG, whatever they call it. That is why at the moment there's a lot of debates, a lot of discussions on how the agenda after 2015 should look like. And there's a lot of discussion which has been ongoing since the past couple of years. And this week in particular is an important, a crucial week for that discussion. This week the UN is holding the 68th General Assembly. Now usually we're not too interested in the General Assembly of the United Nations because it's usually not so relevant to us in the health sector. But this week it's special. This week, September 25th, which is still now in the US in New York, They're holding the special event towards achieving the MDG, in which they're trying to formulate the last big push before 2015, and also bridging to post-2015. So effectively forging, shaping what is the agenda going to be after 2015. Now this is September 25th, so in New York time this is still September 25th, so it's still ongoing. So we don't know yet what is the result of the discussions. It would be nice if we know, so we could discuss it here also. But anyhow, it will be coming. Perhaps tomorrow we'll hear. In the meanwhile, I thought it would be nice just to set the stage, to put things into a perspective of whatever is coming from this, by reviewing the current debates, the current discourses toward this as documented in the reports which has been published in the previous 1 year or so. Now, there are so many documents, so many reports about post-2015 which you can get around the internet. But in the interest of time, I will only review briefly these 4 documents, which I think are among the most important ones for us to know. So the first one is the June 2012. This is from the UN Task Force for Post-2015, one of the early one, The Future We Want. And then we have the May 2013. This is the report of a high-level panel of eminent person. And then June 2013, we have the report of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, also submitted to the UN Secretary General. And last but not least, this is the report by the UN Secretary General himself, Ban Ki-moon, which we will see. So we will unpack each one of these to see what are the thinkings which these documents contain, to see where the discussion is going and where is it likely to be ending. So let's take the first one. So this was published last year, one of the early ones, by the UN Task Team for Post-2015. So they were given the task to translate the results of the Rio +20 summit into the vision for the post-2015 agenda. And one of the things which they did first in the early parts of the report, they tried to review what is the strength and what are the weaknesses of the MDG. And it gets a bit interesting in the weakness part. Here, this is one passage I took out from the report about the weakness of the MDG. And here you see they say that one of the weaknesses, the MDG did not adequately address increase in non-communicable disease. So they acknowledged that this was an error of omission, that this had serious implication, it was omitted, and this was major weakness of the MDG. So that's nice. At least it's now being acknowledged that this is one of the weaknesses. Unfortunately, it doesn't go beyond that. So they say it was neglected, but if you read the rest of the report, it doesn't mention anything about NCD anymore. And the remaining section of the report is basically about the concepts they would recommend for the post-2015 agenda, which basically say that whatever the agenda is going to look like, the core principles should be human rights, equality, and sustainability. That's it. So not much, but at least NCD is mentioned in one sentence there, and that's a start. And perhaps anyway, it's too early to expect much at that stage, because before that, the discussions were not so concrete. So let's see if the next report can deliver more expectations. This is the report by the high-level panel of eminent person. The name itself is quite scary. No? High-level panel of eminent persons. So it's important people. And this is co-chaired by these 3 eminent individuals. One of them is very familiar to the Indonesians, I believe. This is our own president. But I believe most Indonesian doesn't know that he's involved as one of the architects of the post-2015. Because the news media in Indonesia is not so interested in these kinds of things. They're more interested on the negative things, but not so much on this positive thing. So yes, our president is one of the co-chair of the high-level panel of eminent person. And he acknowledged that it apparently is not so interesting. I remember very clearly when we were invited to the launch of the report in Jakarta at the State Palace. In the opening remark, he said that, please read the report. I know it's not interesting, but please read it anyway, because it's important. So even he said it's not interesting. So, but I still agree that it's an important report. There are quite a few things there which are noteworthy. The report itself, this is the core of the report, that there is a shift in terms of paradigm here, that for the MDG, the main concern of ending extreme poverty. Now, for this report, ending extreme poverty is not the end, but the beginning. So then we take it from there, because beyond that, what is more important is embarking on the path of sustainable development. So this is already a shift from merely ending extreme poverty, shifting to the path of sustainable development. And then they also highlight some of these transformative shifts, which also differs from the MDGs. I'm not going to go through one by one, but just to briefly show you that from the health perspective, there has been some concerns because we don't see much about health, and this is a result of a cloud analysis of the report. The cloud analysis basically show what words are being emphasized in the text to be able to see what are the things which are important. Can anybody see health in that cloud of words? There's a special prize from the committee if you can find it. Going once, going twice, going thrice. Nope, no prize. You need a very sharp eagle eye to see that. And that's not good. Because that means health is not mentioned much in the text. And that raises concern. So in the text, you don't see a lot about health in this report. But not to despair first. Apparently, in the annex, it gets a bit more interesting. So in the main text, yes, there is not much about health. But if you look at the annex, in the annex, they have what they call illustrative goals, which they propose. And these are the illustrative goals. 12. So from 8 growing to 12. MDG, we had 8 goals, now become 12. And there you see number 4. Goal is ensure healthy lives. And then there's still other ones which are related. For example, number 5, good nutrition. Number 6, access to water and sanitation, also related to health. So apparently it's there. So let's see what's behind door number 4, healthy lives. What are they saying about healthy lives? This is what the breakdown of the goals of ensure healthy lives look like. The first one, it looks like an extension of MDG 4. It's about infant mortality, under 5 mortality. So it's still there. The second one is a little bit new, about coverage of vaccinations, but not just in children, also in adult and older people. The third one is an extension also of the previous MDG. It's about maternal mortality. The fourth one is new and very controversial, sexual and reproductive health. This was one of the last bits to come in. And the last one there, you see an extension of MDG 6. Burden of HIV/AIDS, TB, malaria, and there we see the last one, NCDs. So it's there, but that's it. It's there and it's at the end. Okay, so it's good to see it's there, but it doesn't go beyond that also. That's it. They just say reduce the burden of non-communicable disease. How? It's not mentioned at this stage. So that's the report of the high-level panel. So let's have a look at the third one. This is the report for the Sustainable Development Network, which is chaired by Jeffrey Sachs. And there, just to go very quickly, they're very much emphasizing on this dimension of sustainable development, economic development, social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and good governance. And to be able to achieve that, they propose 10 goals, which is called the Sustainable Development Goal, SDG. So the MDG will become SDG, apparently. And here among the 10, you got number 5, achieve health and well-being at all ages. And let's unpack number 5. And there here we see, in number 5, they say, when we talk about achieving health and well-being at all ages, this is a long sentence, I'm not going to read it, but coming into where NCD comes in, healthy, sustainable decision regarding diet, related to NCD, physical activity, and other individual social dimensions of health. So it's addressed there. And then they also have 3 targets of that goal, which is quite interesting to see that all targets touch NCD. So here you see, for example, prevention and treatment of communicable and non-communicable diseases, and here you have this universal access. And then here you see also mortality under 70 years of age from non-communicable diseases, promote healthy diet, physical activity, blah, 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 and so on. So in their proposed targets, it's very much taking into account the importance of NCD for development. And that's good news. Of course, there's still room for improvement, but anyhow, this is quite a progress compared to the earlier reports. So let's look at the last one, which is from the Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, which is supposed to be the masterpiece. The report is entitled A Life of Dignity, a very profound title. Again, raising the expectations because this is supposed to be the climax. But if we look at what's inside, this is basically the outline of the emerging vision that he sees for the post-2015. And to be able to achieve this vision, he proposed that there are transformative and mutually reinforcing actions, and among which is improve health. And let's unpack what's under improve health. And we see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. Reduce burden, promote healthy behavior. And that's it. And not beyond that. So it's a bit of a surprise because the previous report by the Sustainable Development Network was pretty sharp, quite sharp. But then it comes into this report at the end, which is a step back compared to the previous report. So it's a bit disappointing. It's an anticlimax, I would say. So if, as a lecturer, I would mark this as a class assignment, this would get a B. It was not bad, but it didn't do much. You can give this a B+. It was much better, but still much room for improvement. This one is pretty good. A-, but this one then comes back to the B. It's an anticlimax. Now you might differ, and because this is very subjective, of course, and it's also just from the perspective of NCDs. If you take it from the perspective of others, you might get different marks. Look at it from climate change perspective, it would be different. But that's how it is. But to be fair, you don't expect any reports like this to get an A+. Because it's very difficult to be able to get a perfect report, to be able to reconcile all the different interests, all the different inputs. We were involved in several of the discussions of this report, and I remember how difficult it is to be able to synthesize all the different inputs. For example, in the meeting in Bali, in which they had this roundtable discussion of 100 academicians. Imagine 100 academicians sitting at a round table from different faculties, different subject, different discipline. Everybody thinks his subject is important. Everybody wants to put it on the agenda. So it was quite a big fight. And in the middle of discussion, the chair was Professor Jeffrey Sachs himself, and there was somebody who was saying, excuse me, Chair, do you know that 30% of the world population depends on fish as the source of protein? So fishery is very important to put on the agenda. Yeah. That's a bit difficult to refute diplomatically or politically correct, but that's how it is. That's how the discussion goes. So it's very difficult. I mean, yes, we would like health to be very strong on it, but we're just one of the many interests. So it's very difficult to have a perfect report which satisfies everyone. It's not going to happen. So I empathize with the chairs of these panels. They have a tough job to be able to bring in all this together. It's not easy. So to get this far is already pretty good. And also to say that this doesn't represent all of the thinkings which are out there. There are other big ideas which are not in this mainstream UN reports. There are other ideas which are also brewing. For example, in the General Assembly which is running September 25th, Mr. Bill Gates also is one of the speakers, and he has his own ideas. He has different ideas. This is Mr. Gates' idea. You can check it out in his website, thegatesnotes.com. It's an infographic. And here he seems to be quite agnostic, meaning he doesn't care what is the goal, as long as it is focused on poverty and health, as long as it's measurable, as long as it's actionable, as long as it's built on consensus, he's okay with it. So that's another approach. This is another approach. This is the Go for Health, Goals and Governance for Health network, which is coalition of NGOs and academicians, including from Antwerp, Heidelberg, and they have a different approach. They were saying that health should be a right to itself. So if we look at the MDG, health is a mean to poverty, to eradicate poverty. Here also in the previous report, you see health as a mean for sustainable development. Here in this report, they say that health is a right by itself. Health is a human right, so it's not because we want to have economic or social, but because health is a human right. So this is another approach, a human rights approach. Another idea. And I'm sure there are still many big ideas out there, including in this room. I'm sure there's a lot of ideas in this room. There are hundreds of people in these rooms with different insights, different experiences. So I would be very interested to hear about these different ideas between NCD, health, and development. This is not New York. This is not the United Nations General Assembly, but that's okay. I don't believe that the winds of change should only blow from New York or Geneva or Washington. It should also blow from places like this, resource-constrained setting, where the day-to-day reality are these challenges, places like Yogyakarta. So the wind should also blow from Jogja to the other parts of the world. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Yodi. So shall we ask the organizing committee to forward your marks to the respective organizations?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Now we will continue with the second speaker, Ibu Dr. Gigi Teresia Roni Andayani, MPH. She is currently with the National Planning and Development Bureau from the Directorate of Personal Health. Yeah, Head of Subdirectorate on Personal Health. Or Chief Division of Personal Health. Yes. So please, Ibu, your time is 20 minutes also.
Selamat pagi Bapak-Ibu sekalian, adik-adik, selamat pagi. Ya. Terima kasih pada kesempatan di sini untuk menyampaikan ide-ide tentang bagaimana sesungguhnya NCD ini kita kerjakan di Indonesia. Mr. Rainer, I think, and Pak Chris, and also Ibu Rifati, and I forget the name. Okay, I have presentation in English, so I can speak in bilingual, I think. So, because here we have most Indonesian people here. Okay. And this topic actually is interesting because this is symposium on research, policy and actions. Actually, this topic is what we have done so far under our institution. So I would like to introduce my Indonesian colleagues that actually our institution also doing research, also doing policy option, and about the action is to ministry, for the ministry, and we do the monitoring. Okay, so this meeting is very important for us, and we really give the appreciation for UGM doing these things, and also this meeting gives the resonance internationally. So if Pak Yudi say that actually not only New York, not the big international city, but we is internationally part of the international. So whatever we're doing is part of the international activity. So well done from for the UGM, and applause for UGM. Okay. The topic is NCD Health and Development Agenda. Next slide. We have here. I would like to say about the National Midterm Development Plan, year 2010 until year 2014, and then current condition of NCDs and cause of death in Indonesia, and also disease transition and how we trying to develop our agenda in the future. And also, how is NCD's prevention so far we thinking about at the moment. For the midterm, or we call as RBTMN, National Midterm Development Plan 2010-2014, actually we have to proud to Indonesia. Even though as national in NDGs, NCD is did not stated as Pak Yudi saying, but here in our country, CD and NCD already are part of our focus. So actually we have 8 national focus, 7 priority reformation. In the 8 national focus, we have the third one is communicable disease and non-communicable disease. It means Indonesia already aware about the NCDs. Therefore, also under Ministry of Health, we already have the one directorate, we have the NCDs. To solve this, and also we have also Jamkesmas. This is the health insurance for the poor people. And what is the 7th priority? The 7th priority, we're trying to move to health insurance. Here, this is important. How to finance? We really understand that actually our people is heavy in the burden and financial when they get sick, when they get hospitalized. Therefore, actually, we plan to achieve universal coverage in year 2014 with the assumption that during this year, 2010, there is the BPJS already stated, already running, but then the condition is different, and then we just start with BPJS or in the year 2014. So it means at least this idea in the midterm plan, the National Midterm Plan 2010-2014, encourage all the activity to achieve the universal coverage in the 2019 we plan at the moment. How is the cause of death? This is our research. Our research is not only done by the Bappenas, but we also asking from all institutions under the Indonesian. Let's see here. Actually, we get the data from Ministry of Health and National Health Research and Development. So here, Badan Litbangkes, we have the research department in the under the Ministry of Health, and here the stroke is becoming the number 1, is 16.9%, and then cerebral disease. This is region 1 and this is region 2. This is the condition year 2010. Region 1, what is region 1? Region 1 is Sumatra and Java. Here, let's see what has happened in region 3. Region 3 also, most is the NCDs, which actually we can prevent with our behavior. Cerebrovascular and stroke, again, this is cerebrovascular disease. So among region, the NCDs becoming the first level, the cause of death. So if we're trying to put this here, 95, 2001, and 2007. Risk death, this is the national basic research running by the Ministry of Health here. And then this 5 years, so this year, 2013, risk death is being collected, the data, and this month is not finished yet, the analysis, so we cannot present this data. Here we can see that how is the maternal prenatal. Year 2095, this is reduced, and communicable disease also seems reduced. The cause of death in 95 is 44% cause of communicable disease. 2011, 31%. the communicable disease, and 2007 only 28. But compared to the non-communicable disease, increased to 59.5%. So it means the communicable disease is reduced, the cause of death, but the non-communicable disease is rising, increased significantly from 95 to 2007. This is we trying to understand the condition of our population. So now we look at how is the transition of death. Here, the cause of death. This is the deep study run by also the Ministry of Health, Badan Litbang. 10 cause of death in 15 districts in year 2010. This is stroke, 15.7. It means here is very high proportion. Here, the 3 of disease, stroke and ischemic heart disease, 15 plus 8 already 25.9. So it's 25.9% is because the NCDs. And then here, the 3, the 4, 5, 6 is also NCDs. But we have to be careful here. Number 3 is respiratory. This is TB. This is communicable disease. And we know that actually now in Indonesia, there is a MDR. So we have to be careful to this. So multi-drug resistance already exists in Indonesia. Here, we see also, look at what is the cause of death for men. Men is about the stroke and ischemic as the first and second. How about the women? Women is even 4. First, second, third, and 4 is because of NCDs. So how important NCDs should be handled in the next. But TB, we cannot laugh. We have to put attention on the TB issue because men also have this, the third, and women also have this, the fourth one. So I think this is why we have to really be careful in the next few years because we really need to do this. Now, how about the condition? Other condition here, the traffic accidents getting increased. The death of traffic accident. Here, about the communicable disease reduced and non-communicable disease reduced. So actually, not only non-communicable disease, we have to pay attention, but also how we regulate, how we reduce the cause of death because of the accident. Now, the current condition of non-communicable disease, the issue, we know with the 1/3. Let's see here. We have the prevalence of DM upper of the 15 years in the urban area. This is the normal. Here, the condition here, from the disease, there is only 1/3 has been controlled, but the rest is not controlled. So if there is, we know that people get the diabetes mellitus, the issue here is here, only 1/3 of the patient has been controlled, but the rest is not controlled. This is the big issue. Even, also for the blood pressure, the same. Here, only 1/3. has been controlled, the rest is not controlled. How to see this? Actually, from the questionnaire, we asking for the questionnaire actually here. Sorry, when they ask, do you stroke? No. Do you hypertension? Have blood pressure? They say no, I don't have. But when the researcher measure the blood pressure, actually they have the high blood pressure. So it means really we have to control 2/3 of the population of the high blood pressure potential. Here also problems in the stroke diagnosis. The rings here also the problem here when we're trying to break down to the province. There is some province like Papua is lower in prevalence of stroke, but here in DKI and then Aceh is really high. What is behind this? Why the people stay in Aceh have prevalence of stroke is higher in Indonesia? Here also prevalence of hypertension. Okay. I think the audience doesn't interest with this data. Yeah. Because this is our condition. Here Aceh again about the heart disease also very high. And here West Sulawesi is the lowest one. Now we move to tumor. Also we have here. Okay? What does it mean? So we really have to take into account all NCDs issue. But this is not easy, as Pak Yudi is saying, because of the attitude of us. So how to change our attitude in eating and providing things to reduce the NCDs. Now we're trying to go to the development agenda here. At the moment we have a background study. Here National Health System or SKN becoming the basic consideration to do the technocratic planning. We just go to the technocratic planning. Afterwards, we have to propose this to the next year, whoever becoming our president. Therefore, we're trying to have the strong analysis, the strong technical technocratic planning with the several options, and to give to the winner of the 2014 election. So therefore, this year is very tough for us. Very tough for us to identify all problems, and NCD is already becoming one of the issues should be taken into account in the next RPJMN. Even in this RPJMN we already start, but we have to pay attention. Here the SKN, this is our national health system in Indonesia based on the Presidential Decree number 72 year 2012. Here health program and how regulation will go to and how the health financing to provide all services for the community. And here our concept to see and to design our background study. We have the static environment including how social protection will be implemented in year 2014, post-MDGs and international commitment. And we have the dimension here, and we have also program intervention. We also put attention, community nutrition, NCDs, and healthy lifestyles becoming one of the priority in our study at the moment. Now, here we're trying to see all aspects in every single theme, and we already discussed these things. And the next month, maybe we have some preliminary finding of all things of background study. Yesterday, we just have a workshop on drug and food security control to preparing the background study. Here, the post-MDG is already presented by Pak Yudi. However, here we focus on this, how actually the economic growth will be influence our sustainable development. And here, the number 4, ensure health life. We try to put here non-communicable disease becoming priority in under the target 4, ensure healthy life. So I think non-communicable disease will be internationally priority start on 2015, but for Indonesia already start in the year 2010. So this is, I try to making remark here because actually Indonesia already 5 years advanced thinking about the NCD should be controlled. This is how we trying to present in our report, and how to prevent the NCDs. This is the concept actually. There is a community health services and individual health services. Therefore, Pak Yudi also presenting the individual health and how disease will be cured and prevent. Here, this is from Susanas. The data show that actually the population in Indonesia, most 70% is healthy, another 30% have disease sign. Who have disease sign, 42% is self-care, and then the 55% is go to the health services. And here, the health facility should improve the quality of care. But here, we should move here to there. So we're trying to make healthy people not 70, but 80 or 85. And prevent them goes to this disease sign using the promotion and prevention. And how to do this? So I think we already have identified some of them as community-based, school health program, office health program, media, journalists, and we have to improve. We have to improve knowledge of our journalists in the NCDs, so they can write correctly how to educate people. And we will also trying to invite our movie star or artists in Indonesia, because the issue why people now is depending the artist. If the artist is slim, so all people trying to be slim, but sometimes too slim. Yeah, the teenager sometimes too slim, and they're not ready to be a mother. This is also another side of NCD. We have to be careful, because in our research also, because the nutrition is not enough for the young, for the teenager, when they get married and have pregnant, they're not ready to feed the baby, and then they born with a lower weight. So we have to be careful how the cut-off point between the slim of NCDs and the slim of for the maternal health care. So we have to be careful in these two items.
Ibu, 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, because we have also here, we have to go, no, sorry. We have to go to promotive care even greater. So if now stay here in the RPJMN 2005-2010, so hopefully in the end of the RPJMN, the promotive prevention care is becoming higher and higher. So do you agree? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Teresia Roni. Bapak Ibu sekalian, now let's start with the discussion session. We are expecting for each other to share experiences, ideas, and thoughts. But before that, let me say that Pak Yodi has reviewed all the international key events and also key documents, and followed by the second speaker, who describes how the Indonesian government responded to this. And a very important statement is that Indonesia has made one step ahead. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to invite three discussants. Please mention your name and where you are, and I will allow also to ask in Bahasa Indonesia, but please respond in English. We will help to translate. One, Prof. Rainer. Two. Yeah, we'll start with two first. So, yeah, please mention your name and where you are from.
Okay. I asked for Yodi Harana, sir. My name is Reza Ashari. I am studying Policy Health Management at Gajah Mada University. I want to ask you about your slide presentation about MDGs and SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. I want to ask a question for you. Are you sure SDG could be strong from MDGs within overcome poverty and non-communicable disease? That's okay. Thank you very much.
Ditujukan ke siapa?
Mr. Yoli Mahendra. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have the second question also, Prof. Rainer, and then we have one.
Okay, good morning. My name is Nyoman Purnawan. I'm from Field Epidemiology Training Program. I want to ask with Dr. Teresia. I agree with what to prevention of NCD. We do cooperative with media, especially electronic media. But now, how we can do to cooperative, and then how we know that is effective. So that's it. Thank you.
Last question.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Rainer Sauerborn from Heidelberg University in Germany. And I want to congratulate both speakers for their wonderful presentations. I have a question to the statistics, Sandiani. Cancer didn't show at all in any of the top 10 killing diseases in any province. Is this a reporting problem, or is this really not a problem? Thank you.
Okay, we'll have three questions first, and then we'll open the second session again. Pak Yodi, please. Or Ibu Teresia. Yeah, Bu Roni. Yeah. Media.
Thank you for the questions. I would like to answer for the last questions first. Okay, here the question is why cancer doesn't exist in all data. So it means there is no cancer. Is it right? No, actually. This this is the prevalence of heart disease diagnosis. So this is prevalence of the tumor. So only the tumor we asking, not cancer. Yeah, prevalence of cancer. Because the questionnaire is for the community. The questionnaire is the whole disease is asking, including not only the disease, including the nutrition, including everything. So if we're asking about the cancer, I think it's quite difficult because here. But then if we see here, cause of death here is not in the 10, but lower than 10. Because we're trying only put this the 10. The 10 biggest cause of death in Indonesia. The cancer is not really becoming first one, but they are exist the cancer, but maybe in the 11 or 12. Yeah, even here we're trying to differentiate between men and women. Also, the cancer doesn't exist. Okay, and now asking about the media. Yeah, role of media. This is interesting questions. How? My dear friends, actually, we always working in why. This is, I think, this is the good question. Usually the how, we trying to put them left. We never talk about how, but we always research about why, on what happened, and where, and when. But when we talk about how, the researcher usually doesn't answer this how. This is our task. How? And media, we're trying to already invite media in some meetings, some workshop, like when we're discussing about this communicable disease and non-communicable disease workshop to set up background study. We always invite the community. The community can reflect like GAPMI. GAPMI is Gabungan Asosiasi Pengusaha Makanan Minuman. When we talk about the nutrition, we invite the business in the makanan minuman. But now we when talking about the communicable disease and non-communicable disease, we also invite the wartawan. We invite Kompas and we invite some of the media. Why? We want to get the idea from the journalists how we will go to the next 5 years to plan our development plan. So we really invite our all stakeholders during our study. So everybody can speak in that workshop. Therefore, when we invite the media, they know, and then afterward they can get better things. This is only one how. Another how, which we collaborate also with other donors, other partners. At the moment, like UNICEF, also train the journalists to give them how actually to understand about the micronutrient, which is to reduce the stunting. So this is the method we trying to improve the media. I think maybe we need also invite the all media in the topic, not to give them socialization, but let us them to think and to give the information for us, the invitation, and then before this we give this core of the substance, and then invite them to thinking. So I think when they are thinking, this is very quick understanding and very quick to disseminate to the peer group. This is the one of the strategy. Thank you.
Untuk pertanyaan yang pertama, Mas Reza ya, betul ya. Tadi pertanyaannya apakah seberapa yakin gitu ya Pak Yodi bahwa SDG ini akan mengatasi problem poverty, betul ya? Ya, silakan Pak Yodi.
If I understand correctly, it's to what extent SDG would address NCD. Is that what you wanted to ask about? Okay. NCD poverty. Okay. Okay. The easy answer is it depends. That's the easy answer academically. Because the SDG is not here yet. We don't have it in a concrete form. It's still under debate. What I present to you is it is something which is under discussions. And it is discussed September 25th, but it will still be ongoing until 2015. So we don't know yet how it's going to look like. Now, but the core principles of the concept of sustainable development itself, I agree, it's valid and relevant for our era these days. But but then how do you translate that into what kinds of intervention you put in place? Because, for example, if you see the different documents, one of the criticism for the report of the high-level panel of eminent person, even though it's taking a sustainability approach, one of the biggest criticism there is it seems to lead to more a fragmented health system. Because it seems to recommend vertical programs. So programs for tuberculosis, malaria, HIV, cancer, diabetes. So single vertical programs for each disease. I don't think that's the way to go. That's coming back to the previous mode. I think I'm more of a believer of a cross-cutting health system approach instead of having a fragmented health system. So if you see between the reports, there was a swing between reports which are more vertical oriented, which are more disease specific, and there were reports which were a more cross-cutting system perspective. Yeah. So it depends on, in the end, what does the SDGs translate into like. I don't know yet. But the core principle itself is valid and relevant, but then it depends, does it translate into vertical programs, silos, or does it translate into more of a health system based approach interventions, which I believe is more effective. Okay?
Yeah. We still have 8 minutes, so we can one question, 2, 3. Yeah, please. Short question, please.
My name is Harjo Suwarno, Slamet Harjo Suwarno from Christian University of Duta Wacana in Yogyakarta. I have a problem when defining what is communicable disease and non-communicable disease. I believe that when seeing maternal mortality, it's actually also, is it infectious disease also include in communicable disease or not, for instance. And then for the classifying in non-communicable and communicable disease, really difficult in aging people. Must be, it is communicable disease or not communicable disease. Then I believe that when we combat with this issue, I believe that non-communicable disease more and more significant now. But when we have to see that behavior and environmental issues actually also impact to the communicable and non-communicable disease. How we define then communicable disease and non-communicable disease in these issues? Thank you.
Second question. think we have someone over here and then someone over there. Yang di mana? Di depan itu. Oh, nggak lihat.
Okay, thank you for the time. My name is Fitri. I am the Master Student of Health Promotion and Health Behavior in Gajah Mada University. I was really interested in Mrs. Teresia presentation about the prevention of the NCD in school health. I mean, it is really important to, to target children and teenagers this time to make a better life for them tomorrow to prevent NCD. But what exactly is it, the program? I mean, will we, targeting the UKS, Unit Kesehatan Sekolah, or, because this time there's a lot of program, targeting the school, like PKPR in reproductive health. I mean, why could we, integrating that program in NCD? I mean, about the dieting things in this program, like PKPR and stuff, and also the cafeteria. Have we think about that? About the, the food of that served in the school these days in this cafeteria of the school, guys and girls. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Third question, and then we still have one more. Jadi penanya ketiga ada yang dari atau nggak jadi? Jadi dari yang di tengah bang. Nggak jadi ya? Berarti mungkin ibu yang di sebelah sana. Ya. Nanti keempat Bapak.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Handayani. I'm a doctoral student of University of Indonesia. This topic is very interesting for me. That's why I'm here now. I want to ask Mr. Yodi. You explained that the funding for NCD is not like for communicable disease like HIV, TB, malaria. Can you predict about for the next term about SDG? Can the number of the funding will be increased or not? And for Ibu Teresia, I want to ask you. You said that the program of NCD is already in our program. What are the priority? And I want to know the allocation budget. Can you explain or how much the percentage for from if we compare NCD and communicable disease, how much it is? And one of the important thing is the regulation for NCD is about tobacco control. I want to know about the progress of our regulation, which is still discussed in national parliament. Thank you.
All right, last person.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, my English language is not good enough, so I will ask in Indonesian language. Oke, ya. Yang pertama buat Pak Yodi, saya sebenarnya masih agak Saikol Bakri dari KMPK. Saya masih agak bingung antara non-communicable disease dengan communicable disease gitu ya. Saat nanti misalkan setelah 2015 communicable disease-nya ternyata dihapus dan diganti NCD gitu misalkan. Saya agak ada semacam kekhawatiran karena menurut saya kesempatan dari communicable disease untuk menyebarkan penyakit misalkan ada KLB dan sebagainya lebih besar dibanding dengan NCD. Kalau NCD cenderung ke personal kan. Tapi kalau misalkan communicable disease ini yang diganti gitu dengan NCD, maka penyebaran penyakitnya akan jauh lebih berbahaya. Ada tanggapan, mungkin saya masih agak bingung di situ. Terus kemudian untuk Bu Teresiana, Bu Teresiana, untuk Indonesia sendiri sudah memulai masalah NCD ini pada tahun 2010. Mungkin bisa memberikan sedikit gambaran evaluasi sampai tahun ini itu perkembangannya seperti apa. Dari situ mungkin kita bisa memberikan masukan atau apapun lah istilahnya. Misalkan di 2015 nanti NCD akan menjadi sebuah proyek atau program evaluasi apa yang sudah terjadi selama ini dan permasalahan apa yang sudah terjadi selama di pelaksanaan program tersebut. Ya, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, ini salah satu proyektor. Okay, so we have a few questions. First, how we define NCD and communicable diseases, and also regarding funding for NCDs, and then, yeah, I think a fear of whether the communicable disease will be disappearing in the future. And for Bu Roni, about the school health programs, what's the program now, and how, to what extent, I think the issue of NCD will be incorporated to school health, regulation of tobacco control, and then also the current evaluation of NCD. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I will start with the last one. Now, first of all, to clarify, if you look at the discussions, the reports, there is no scenario whatsoever to delete communicable disease from the global development agenda. So, one of the consensus is that many of the goals in MDG remains valid. And some of them are actually unfinished business that you need still to continue it. So there is no scenario to drop communicable disease from the development agenda. It will remain there. So that fear, I mean, we should not worry too much about that. It's still going to be there. HIV, TB, malaria. If you look at the goals of the health panel, you see the last one is actually mentioning AIDS, TB, malaria, plus neglected tropical diseases, which is helminthiasis, schistosomiasis, filariasis, and so forth, plus non-communicable disease. So the whole bunch is there. So no fear that it's going to be deleted as such. But then bridging to the previous question regarding the division between communicable disease and non-communicable diseases. Now this is, I agree, a bit tricky, and actually I would recommend not to be trapped with this divisions, because this is also the danger. If we are too divisive, then there will be two camps. There will be people fighting for funding for communicable disease, and there will be people fighting for funding for non-communicable diseases. And these two camps will be trying to grab pieces of the pie, which is very limited already. That's why I'm not so much into the vertical approaches, which seems to be recommended, more of a health system approaches, which is for both communicable and non-communicable diseases. Yeah, more of a cross-cutting one, because some of the communicable diseases have features, characteristics, which is like non-communicable disease. HIV, TB is communicable, but they are chronic. They need long-term treatment, management, and so forth, which is similar to the case management of diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular. You need treatment, adherence, you need continuous interactions, and so forth. So I don't think it's fruitful to divide it so sharply between communicable disease and non-communicable disease. It's better to take it cross-cutting as a whole, that we need a health system which can deal with both communicable and non-communicable diseases. Another division is chronic or acute, which might make more sense, because management for chronic disease and management for acute disease is a bit different. Yeah? So that might be a bit more sensible than trying to differentiate between communicable and non-communicable disease. And then, what is the prediction for funding for non-communicable disease if it gets into the post-2015 agenda? I'm not Mr. Bill Gates, so I don't know how much Mr. Bill Gates is going to fund. But, yeah, I mean, if history is going to repeat itself, what gets on the development agenda will get financed, will get priority for financing. But the question is not so much whether it will increase or not for non-communicable disease. I believe it will increase. But it's more of what will they allocate it for within the non-communicable disease. What we see is that for the funding for non-communicable disease, you see very little which are going for preventions of obesity and so forth, because this is in conflict with the interests of big corporations. For example, soft drinks, fast food. These are big corporations, multinational companies, which have very strong lobbies, even in the UN. If you look at the high-level meetings for non-communicable disease, there are representatives from food companies in there. So it's like having representative of your enemy, as you say, because they have different interests of selling different products, food, soft drinks, and so forth. So, and many of these funding agencies have interest in that as well. There was a publication recently which is interesting, which shows that many of the board members of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation actually serves as board of director of McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and so forth. There is a publication here. Yeah. And Bu Roni will explain a bit about the Permenkes, but I can share with you it's a publication, and it shows clearly that many of the board members are linked, and so they also have to serve the interests of the companies in which they are becoming the board of director. So then they shy away a bit with interventions which are in conflict with the corporate interests. So it's more of a question of how will they allocate it, not how much it will increase.
Terima kasih pertanyaan-pertanyaannya yang rupanya nih teman-teman sudah nggak betah, kepengin tahu lebih jauh. So actually the audience want to know more about these NCDs, and therefore the questions is really actually will be answered in the session 3. So I think you will find all the answer in the session 3, which is the resource person already here, Ibu Hernani from WHO, and also from the Ministry of Health, Professor Chandra Yoga will be in third session. I think they will presenting about how actually the implementation of the NCD within the Ministry of Health, and including the Pak Judy also saying about the control of the food and beverage, which is internationally. We have now actually we have already the ministerial degree to control the sugar, salt, and fat within the food. Therefore, this becoming issue with the other ministry, from Ministry of Trade, etc., etc. So it's not easy. So I think all the control of the NCDs is not only can be handled by the Ministry of Health, but also the all ministry, and also all of you here in this room. The questions from college, from the health promotion student, you're asking about the school program, the NCD and the school program. So I think this is your task, how to identify, how to develop. Okay, you not ask, but you have to give the idea. This is the mean of the student, master student in the health promotion. Okay. Within the Papanas, we already identified this is the room we can do in the school program. But what is in the school program is, it is your task. Okay, and then now what you suggest already done in several schools. Let's see, to control the food selling in the school, etc., etc. But it's not implemented in the whole schooling, and this is our task. So I don't want to say this is the government task. This is our task, Indonesian people task. The government, university, NGO, community, and all partners. Do you agree with? Okay. Regarding the tobacco control, I think you will listen more deeper in the session 3, because they will present about the tobacco. And then already have the government regulation, I think number 109, you can reduce, you can retrieve from the web, the tobacco control regulation, and the KTR, and how to implement also maybe will be presenting in detail in the session 3. Okay, about the budget. So do you think the budget is the important one? Do you think? Okay. How you use your money in your house? Okay. How do you use your income in your house? It is what we're trying to thinking in our ministry. So, if your parents have income 5 million a month, and you have more within one priority, so you have to make the priority. Which one will give you the future better lifestyle? This is the core of thinking about budget. So, the country is the big house of us. Okay? The resource always limited. No one country have, lot of unlimited resource. So, all country have limited resources as our household. So, just thinking about when you asking about the money and everything, and just go through about the priority and what is the goal of the country. And this is the analogy how budget is important. Now, how much budget is important? How much budget needed? This is the task of us. We don't know yet how much actually the money you need. Okay? Some people are only asking need money, but when we asking how much you need, there is no calculation. There is no cost. So this is the important one. When also year 2014, health promotion, health prevention, compared to curative and preventive. There is the BPJS. This is the social insurance will be implemented the 1st of January 2014. The question is, how much is cost of the promotion? Who will do it? Who will estimate this cost? Just do it. You are in your hand. Everything is in your hand. The students is the future of the country. So we really depend on you, my dear students. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think this session we go over time already. And before we end the session, just try to summarize the key points that we learned from the two speakers and from the discussion. First of all, I think in general, this session will set the stage for the further sessions during these 2 days. And we learned that NCD is very high on the agenda at the policy dialogue, as well as in the discussed a lot in the academic community, academic journals. And we learned that there are 3 agendas for post-MDG. One is the ensuring healthy lives, food security and good nutrition, and then water and sanitation. And from the second speaker, we learned that the NCD is also it's a top cause of death. But thankfully, the Indonesian government have already started to make a strong sort of foundation framework by putting in the RPJM 2015 and 2019. Yeah, already there. So. So I guess in this country, hopefully the foundation, the framework is there. And then it's, of course, this needs to be continued. And a lot of the sessions after this, I'm pretty sure we'll continue the discussion on the health sector and also the health system.